Well, folks, here again for the weekly forecast. During this last week, we had two storm systems that moved across the state. The first one was well advertised in regards to the amount of moisture associated with the system. Unfortunately, the snow measurements were way off in terms of the forecast, but I had mentioned if we started to turn to snow early in the morning, that way our significant accumulations were more likely. I don't think any of us thought we were going to get up into that 8 to 10 inch upper end range across portions of eastern Nebraska, but the bigger surprise was the second wave that came through during the midweek period that dropped a widespread stretch of anywhere from 3 upwards of 12 inches of snowfall. Nice fluffy stuff, a lot drier content, but very significant. Most of that snow was initially forecasted just to skirt extreme northeastern Nebraska and move over into Minnesota and Iowa. So it was a surprise that we did see that snow drop more into our region, as we've seen a lot more cold air funneling in than was originally forecasted. Now, if we are to believe the models as we go through this next week, we shouldn't have to deal with any significant weather maker during this period, but there are hints that much colder air will start to arrive in at the end of next week, and of course with that cold air coming in, the way the models have performed, which has been very poorly, we'll have to pay attention to see whether or not we start to see an increase in precipitation as we get closer and closer to the middle of next week, where that system starts to move into our region. So for now, let's take a look at the upper air models and see how we think this is going to play out. And we have basically a zonal flow with a slight ridging over the Rocky Mountains, and the system is going to skirt right across the state. Now, this is not going to have much in the way of any moisture with it, so at best we're probably going to see a few sprinkles. Primarily, if we're going to see them, it would be around the Panhandle. More clouds with this system, and it doesn't really tap any cold air, so it's going to skirt rapidly through the region, so we should have a nice day. We could easily be making it up to the upper 60s to low 70s across portions of Southwest and the Panhandle. In eastern Nebraska, where we have the deeper snow cover, I think we're going to probably put a lid on the temperatures by a good 10 degrees, so 40s to mid 40s is probably pretty likely, with an occasional 50 may not be out of the question. But more importantly, as we get into Sunday, we'll see that first system rapidly zip toward the Ohio River Valley, and we have another system coming down the pipe. Now this will basically be another one of these with no moisture in it. There's a little few clouds to deal with. If we have any sprinkles, again, it'll be across the northwestern part of the state, north central, and this system will clear the state as we get into Monday. So as we go into Monday, we'll start to see that ridge rapidly build back in. That will bring our warmer conditions in, and we'll notice that there's an onshore flow coming into the western United States. Big rainmaker for California and the western United States, up to 16 inches over the next 5-day period in northern California is forecasted, with more energy coming in as we get another week down the road. But for us, we're going to keep high and dry on Monday, and as we get into Tuesday, we'll see some of that activity moving to the southwest, but we see another push of cold air coming into our region, so it's going to push this main low toward the southwest and out of our region. So by the time we get to Wednesday, you can see this cold air starting to funnel in, start to see some cool air moving into northeast Nebraska. The warmer air will stay in place in western Nebraska. By the time we get to Thursday, the cold air deepens. We do have the chance for flurry activity on the backside of this low. If it pushes a little bit farther west, we'd expect heavier precipitation amounts, and then we'll start to see a warming trend as we go into Friday. As we look at the temperature forecast, you'll notice the warmest temperature this week will cool down significantly during the middle part of the next week with a chance of snow, then a gradual warm up toward next weekend. 8 to 14-day forecast brings the warm air in and also keeps the drier conditions in our region.